Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is New York from the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. New York, if we exclude the Deputation of David Coxe for New Jersey, which included New York and several other provinces, the first deputation for New York was that granted in 1737 during the Grand Mastership of the Earl of Darnley to Richard Riggs as Provincial Grand Master, but there is no record of his having established any lodges. In 1747, another deputation was issued during the Grand Mastership of Lord Byron to Francis Goulet. In 1753, Lord Carysfort being Grand Master of England, a deputation was issued to George Harrison. As Provincial Grand Master, he organized several lodges. In 1760, Sir John Johnson was appointed Provincial Grand Master, and he held the office until the commencement of the Revolutionary War. During that war, most, if not all, of the lodges suspended labor. On September 5th, 1781, a warrant was obtained from the Athol Grand Lodge, and a Provincial Grand Lodge was opened in the city of New York. After the close of the war, this body abandoned its provincial character and assumed the title of the Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of the State of New York, and under that title it continues to exist. Dissensions and schisms have from time to time arisen, but for many years past there has been uninterrupted harmony and union. The Grand Chapter was organized March 4th, 1798, the Grand Council of Royal and Select Masters in 1807, and the Grand Commandery, June 18th, 1814. The Scottish Rite was first legally introduced as a governing body in 1813 by the formation in the city of New York of a Supreme Council for the Northern Jurisdiction by the Mother Council at Charleston. A Lodge of Perfection had, however, long before existed at Albany. The first Provincial Grand Master from 1730, Colonel Daniel Cox, did not take any active steps towards the exercise of his new office. Captain Richard Riggs, however, who succeeded him on November 15th, 1737, arrived in New York on May 21st, 1738. The Provincial Grand Lodge was then organized, and the first mention of Freemasonry in New York, which occurs in the New York Gazette of January 22nd, 1739, is thought to refer to this body. The fourth Provincial Grand Master was the most active in organizing lodges. Temple and St. John's were both alive in 1758, and the latter, the charter of which was dated 1751, was probably constituted first. On September 5th, 1781, the Athol Grand Lodge authorized the constitution of a Provincial Grand Lodge of New York, with the Reverend William Walter as Provincial Grand Master. 9 lodges united in its formation, but lodges constituted by the moderns were excluded, and some years elapsed before it was thought advisable to allow them to participate. In 1787, the Grand Lodge declared illegal all lodges in the state not under its own control. The Royal Arch degree was probably worked under the lodge charters at first. It is thought that Washington chapter began life with the Provincial Grand Lodge, warranted in 1781, but as its records were destroyed by fire, the facts about its early history are unknown. 5 chapters, namely Hudson, Temple, Horeb, Hibernian, and Montgomery, constituted on March 14, 1798, a deputy Grand Chapter for the state of New York, subordinate to the Grand Chapter of the United States. Companion DeWitt Clinton was then elected Deputy Grand High Priest. Brother Clinton also served as Grand Master of the Grand Encampment of New York, Grand Master of Knights Templar of the United States, and for 14 years was Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of his state, being furthermore United States Senator, Mayor of New York City, and later was elected Governor of New York. He did not hesitate to publicly defend Freemasonry when many in public office were too fearful to be fair, or were even maliciously antagonistic. As governor, he was prompt, judicial, and thorough with the problems raised by the Morgan mystery, and also wrote these sterling convictions to show his personal Masonic sentiments. I know that Freemasonry, properly understood and faithfully attended to, is friendly to religion, morality, liberty, and good government. And I shall never shrink under any state of excitement or any extent of misapprehension from bearing testimony in favor of the purity of an institution which can boast of a Washington and a Franklin and a Lafayette as distinguished members, which inculcates no principles and authorizes no acts that are not in perfect accordance with good morals, civil liberty, and entire obedience to the government and the laws. On January 10, 1799, the Grand Chapter to the Northern States assumed the name, as it already had the status, of a General Grand Body, and the Deputy Grand Chapters omitted the word deputy from their titles. Columbia Grand Council No. 1 was opened at a meeting in St. John's Hall on September 2, 1810. It was probably a self-constituted body. On January 18, 1823, it was resolved to form a Grand Council of Royal and Select Masters, and at a convention held a week later, Companion Lowndes was chosen most illustrious Royal Grand Master. In 1860, this Grand Council united with another organized May 27, 1854, by representatives of Washington, Pennell, and Oriental councils. A list of members of Morton's encampment, probably the first in the state, appeared in 1796. Reference to a procession including Knights Templar in the Independent Journal of New York, December 28, 1785, suggests that the encampment was at work years before 1796. Of those established about the beginning of the 19th century, Temple Commandery No. 2 seems to be the oldest. A meeting was held on January 22, 1814, of the leading Knights Templar in the state. Assuming the necessary authority, they chose officers for a grand encampment, and on June 18, 1814, this body was established with DeWitt Clinton as Grand Master. June 21, 1816, the General Grand Encampment of the United States was organized at New York. Ineffable Lodge of Perfection and Grand Council of Princes of Jerusalem were chartered at Albany on December 20, 1767. Some years elapsed, and on August 6, 1806, the chapter of Rose-Croix of New York City and the Consistory of New York City were both constituted. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.